Well, hello, Eric from Folks and Games here, and we're going to be starting a project. This will be like a mini series, and I'm going to be modeling Joe's Arcade in SketchUp, helping somebody out with a model of their basement so that they can plan how to move things around and just kind of have the ability to look at things look like without getting actually on the ground with a tape measure. So what I'm going to be doing is working off of a set of drawing notes that I've got here, and these are all from measurements actually taken. And then I've also got a whole bunch of pictures and reference images that I'll be using to help come up with the details here and some of the texturing. This is kind of going to be a more complicated project than a lot of things I've done before in SketchUp. I've worked with it quite a bit, but some of the texturing details that I'm going to be looking to do will be a little bit outside my comfort zone, so that should be pretty fun. And already we got something weird going on. Alright, there we go. So, not sure how far we're going to get in this first part. Just kind of start going. I'm running a feet and inches template because I did have to measure this with an English tape measure. No metric, sadly. And because I can't play music in this whole long video without egregious copyright infringement, I'll just mention that I'm currently listening on my end to Interstellar, Epic Chill Step, and Melodic Dubstep Mix by Arctic Empire. You can just Google that, or I'm going to actually put a link in the description because I find some of this music is just excellent working and drafting music. So there's probably going to be a lot of pauses. It's usually looking to calculate some distance. Right now I'm looking for the total length of this room as it was measured. And actually I took two width measurements of it that you can see kind of in that inset there. I had 144.25 on the width of the room at one end, and on the other end here 144.625. So we're just going to round that off and do 144.5 inches. It's 12 inches, 12 feet and half an inch. But who knows, half an inch could make a difference at some point if you're trying to fit a lot of things into a space. And our other dimension that we've got here is for the length. That is 224 and 3/16 of an inch to our match point, which was here. And then from there, because the tape measure wasn't long enough, had another 141 inches and 3/13 of an inch, which is going to come out to a perfect inch. That's 366 inches, also known as 30.5 feet. So if I move that back over here, I'll just kind of go 30.5 feet out. I'll bring that over. See if I can get a match point here. I guess not, huh? Well, that's okay. It was 144.5 inches. And then I should be able to bring that out to the end point. And that's going to more or less be the floor, or the footprint of this area. There's a closet which I'll put in as well. Definitely going to be using groups and layers as much as I can. So I'm going to come down here. And where's my window for layers? Let's get layers up here in the tray. And I'm going to create a new one called floor. And I'll move all this to the floor. Into the info. Put that on the floor, and I'll make myself drawing on the floor now. I'm going to group that as well, and I'll pull it down 12 inches just to give some depth to it. Okay, so that's going to be our basic floor layer. I'm going to worry about doing the closet later, but that'll be the basics of this thing. Okay, so then let's create a new layer right away called walls. I'll start drawing on that. And let's take a look and see what the next best place to work on this thing is going to be. Seeing we got information on the light spacing. Somewhere on here I've got a note that is going to tell me the height of the room, which definitely is going to be useful for constructing those walls. These are more like detail sheets, different elements in the room. Door thickness, this is stuff for the closet area. I might do that pretty soon here. That might be an easy thing to start on. This is for the main door to the room. And what else do we have? Texture information, note information, height from floor to ceiling. There we go, 82.5 inches. So I'm going to create a wall here and go up 82.5 inches. And I'll probably adjust this to seal some gaps and things like that and just clean up the model a little bit later. But for now, we'll just give ourselves a wall on that side. Group that up, and let's make it 6 inches thick. And I'll do another wall here. 82.5. Oops. I'm thinking in feet there. Group that up. Now, some of my modeling is pretty component based like this. That's just the way I model because when I started in SketchUp, I was working in the source engine developing maps for Left 4 Dead 2, and the game engine for that requires that components be convex faces. Concave faces were not allowed, so if you wanted to do walls or something like this, it all had to be separate components like I've done here. But this will be our basic shape for the room, and I guess other than that we'll have a couple doors, but it is more or less just a rectangular space like this. So we'll start with that, and I think I'm going to create a ceiling layer now, but I'm not going to utilize it, and I'm also going to create a furniture layer, which will be our arcade games and file cabinets and that kind of thing. That's going to have to get moved around. Okay. So, what I'm looking at here is back on our PDF, just checking where my endpoints were at on that room. So here, I took these notes a good long while ago, but the measurement was from the face of the wall at the bottom of the baseboard, and there's baseboard trim around the entire thing. I'm gonna pull up some pictures at some point to get that detail pulled in. And then over here, this dimension, circle, is from the face of the door out. So if I model that door assembly, I can set the door, the sliding door is what's indicated here, straight onto the edge of the wall there. So let's actually take a look at that detail. I figure like that's going to be as good a place as any to start. Looks like the door itself is 79 7/8 inches. I'm going to make one more layer here as well, and I'll call it details, And that's what I'm going to draw, for example, this door on. So, going back here, we have got a 30-inch door that is 79.875 inches tall. Let's bring it 30 inches back again. And there's the door. And let us see here. Indoor out mirror. Somewhere should have a dimension for thickness. Yeah, okay, so over here, back on this sheet, I've got 1 inch and 9/16 thickness. So I'm just going to pull it out 1, and then I'm going to pull it out 9/16. That's our door thickness. I'll make that a component, or a group, not a component. What am I talking about? And the other thing that I've got on here is this is got a little ring cut out into it that you grab with your hand, and that is this detail here. It's a 2 1/4 inch outer diameter with an 1/8 inch inset that goes in 0.45 inches. So we'll just create that detail here, and I'll actually just, well, let's see, do we need 24 sides on this circle? Why not? At the moment, I don't think this model will be crazy. This is going to be a radius, so I actually want 1.125 inch diameter. And I will pull this out actually 0.45 inches. And I'm going to grab this. I will use the offset tool and bring that in 1/8 of an inch. And changing my mind a little bit about how I want to do this, I'm going to bring it off on this axis here about, I don't know, it doesn't matter, 6 inches. I'm going to give myself an extra 1/8 of an inch of depth there, so that I can bring this in at 0.45 and have our inset. And group that. That'll be a nice little door assembly there. Okay, so this will be actually a separate, separate texture than the rest of the door, and I would like to remain as a separate component. So I'm going to grab it there. Ooh, phasing through the floor here, and I'm going to drop it on the bottom corner of this door. Make sure I got that, because now I've got an offset measurement that I can use to bring that up to where it belongs. So it is centered 35 inches above the bottom of the door. 35 and 2 inches in. So right there. Next step I'm going to use is I'm going to grab it and I'm going to bring it along the green axis in to the door like that. These snaps don't always do what I want, so I'm going to just manually draw one in. I'm going to go into the door here, the door model, select that, and I will push this in. What did I do? 0.45 plus 0.125, 0.575 inches. So that will be flush with the back of that bit of handle. I'll get rid of that, and I will select both of these and make them into a group. Okay. So that is one door. I'm going to take a look at some pictures here and see what I've got that shows me this door. so I can set it up the way I want it to be. And I'm not seeing a door that's a great picture of that. Ziz through these here. See if maybe it's over here somewhere. Nope. Wow, that's a grainy, terrible picture. Okay, well, never fear. I do have a video of the space as well. So I'm going to pull that up. And I'm going to find the section that is this door. There we are. So that's what I'm currently working through. And so if I had to guess the way these doors typically are, there would be a mirrored version of this door here with another pocket to get your hand into. And so I'm going to kind of sneak over and let's move this thing. I'll do a control move so that I can duplicate it. Let's just bring it 3 feet out like that. Now let's see. Most likely, since it's a closet, it is going to be just a true mirror, I think. And if this is something that is incorrect, it's always going to be an easy fix later. So I will scale it by -1. And now I've got a nice mirrored copy of this whole group. Like so. And for now, I will bring it to that point, and I'll drag it back about 12 inches. And I'll adjust that to look a little bit better later on. Okay, so the next thing that I think is going to be worth doing is working out the trim around this thing. I can actually set it in where it belongs. So looking at my notes here, I've got a dimension table that I created. Now that's partly because when I was doing this, didn't have a whole lot of time, and so I did really just kind of come up with a quick way to put these dimensions in, and now I get the fun task of deciphering them. But I think it's pretty straightforward. Outside out is the inside of the closet, so it's actually kind of backwards, but it doesn't matter because I didn't even measure that. We weren't super worried about what's in the closet at this point. But I do have these dimensions inside the main game room. So on the left side, I have a 0.28 offset to the start of the trim, I believe. Oh, wow. This is uber confusing the way I laid this out. In, out. Wow, what in the world was I thinking? I've got a B here. B is super vague. 4.75 and C main door. It's like a puzzle working through your own notes sometimes. You can tell I haven't done a whole lot of full room workups before. Here's information about the main door. I wanted to see what this trim was, I think. Most of this just seems to pertain to the main door. And some of this is the more pertinent info to what I'm doing right now, I think. Doo-ba-doo. Okay, so I think I've deciphered at least some of my notes here. Looking back at this video for a second will help confirm that a little bit. Yes. So, what I'm looking at .25. So mostly what I'm seeing for dimensions, what my problem is, what I'm seeing for dimensions here doesn't seem to match up with any significant dimensions in the main room. So I must be missing something here. Ah, that's what I was looking for. Okay. So these dimensions here are my insets from there to there. What I was looking for were these dimensions, 4 1/8, 64, out to out, that are going to tell me a little bit more about where this door is positioned. So if I come over here and I go over 4 1/8 inches, that's the location of the outside of the trim, and 64 inches over is the other outside. So this is the area of my door. Okay. Any rustling here is me looking at the actual paper copies, because in some cases paper copies are a little bit easier to work with. This detail here is just pertaining to this outlet. Okay. Looking back at our video here, looks like that door height is going to extend pretty much to the top of the walls there. Yeah, that seems to line up pretty well. And if I take a look back here, the other dimension that I'm seeing is that I have 2 1/4 inch offsets in here. So if I bring this in 2.25, and 2.25. That's where my wall cutoff is going to be. Yeah. And I'm going to have a section for this trim here, so let's do that. We've got 0.7 inches that way. I actually have 2.25 minus 0.07. 0.07 is important, so 2.18 inches over that way. And then I have a 1/4 inch this way. That's kind of what that will look like. But then there's some extra trick here because there's a radius on that. So we're going to get something that looks at least decent. We have 12 sides, I think, on this thing only. And our radius is 0.1, say. Or it's 0.15. I have 0.1 through 0.15. And just looking at things here, I like the 0.15 better. So I'm going to move that up to here. And that coming to the midpoint actually looks pretty good. So I think I might just roll with it. Chop some of these off, and I'm going to keep that for the moment. I do think this could maybe do with a few more faces, so I'm going to do a 16 side circle. I'll do 0.15 again, and I'll make a copy here. This one I'll bring out like that. That looks pretty good. Let's get rid of that line. I'm not going to need it in that line. And that whole bunch of these lines, pretty much. Yep. And I'm going to get rid of this face too because it's doing some crazy stuff. Let's get this one, put it on the midpoint again, and I'm going to connect then. I'll actually say from this midpoint to here. That's pretty close to tangent on both sides, close enough that it's, you know, not going to be noticeable in any case that it's a little off. And there's kind of our section of door trim, or whatever you call it. I'm not super happy with all those extra faces in there, so I think I'll clean that up here. Just get another circle and do a 0.15. Get rid of this line again. I'll go back to grab this endpoint. Same thing basically as where we were before, but this will be a single object. When I bring that back in. And there's our face. Now when I pull that up, I don't have all those extra messy lines in there. So let's bring that up. And group that thing before I forget. And I'm going to put it right here on my outer boundary, which I don't need anymore. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to copy another one out to over here because I'm going to use that in a couple more places. and I don't want to lose it. So I'm going to copy this one, and I'll scale it -1, just like we did before. Bring it over here. There we go. Oops. Deleted that. And okay, so now we've got both of our edges there. And we are going to need one for the top, I believe. Yep. Same thing for the top. I'm just reviewing some footage here of what that other door looked like to make sure that I'm getting these details correct. Okay. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, so I took a second there to actually look at my notes a little bit, and what these left, right, and top in dimensions are indicating is this dimension B here. So how far this is offset from the face there, but this piece of wood is the same. So with that in mind, I actually have to adjust these a little bit, which will end up changing the width of our door only slightly. So I have on the left 0.28 instead of 0.07. So I have to go 0.21 further over. That can go. And I still have this dimension as 64 inches. So I can just hit that to 64, pull that over, and then this line will get adjusted here. To be on the right side 0.25 inches. There we go. Okay, so there's our line. I'm going to delete this line because it means nothing. And here I'll draw this line back in. 0.28. Get rid of my scrap construction lines down there. Okay, so we're going to go back to our walls layer now. Actually, one last detail here. This piece has got to get rotated 90 degrees so that it can be the ceiling. So that's going to end up like that. That'll extend to here. And here. Okay. And then we have an offset here as well. And that is 0.17. So now I kind of have the dimensions of this door opening in the wall a little bit more defined. So now moving back to the walls, I'm going to grab this endpoint and I'll just trace that opening that I've marked out with my offset lines. Okay, and we'll offset that like so. Now we've got a hole in the wall. The dimensions over on this other screen are indicating to me that it's 4.75 inches thick as well, this wall. So that means I guessed an extra 1.25 inches too far. 6 inches is always just kind of my base guess because it's an easy number to work with, but I'll adjust that now. Come around and just get them all while I'm thinking about it. I think this one's already done. Yep, 4 3/4. So now our walls are to the correct dimensions. Next thing I want to do is take care of this interchange here with these wood pieces. So I'm going to bring these up like that. And now I'm going to try to work some magic. So I'm going to actually select them all and I will explode them so they're no longer a group, but there's a whole lot of lines that are in their way. So I'll intersect faces with model. You can see there it has created geometry where those conflict. And just to make this a little bit easier to work with, I'm going to move it away from my main model. And I'm going to try to start getting rid of the geometry that I don't need. So if I go inside the face here, I can start deleting some of these lines that are the intersect model that was generated. These lines are unnecessary. Although not everything always works out quite perfectly, as you can totally see here. It would have been nice if that face had stayed, but I can regenerate it. Looks like the hidden faces on my arcs are sticking around as well. So a little bit of cleanup that's got to get done to clean up this geometry. But I like to do this because, at least in my opinion, it makes the model a little bit more stable. And just a little bit cleaner to look at. Because now what I have, what I have developing here is that beveled corner where those pieces would be chamfered. And, you know, angle cut together to look nice in real life. A little bit touchy here. I'm going to zoom my camera in a little bit to make it a little easier to control. I am using a 3D mouse for this modeling. It's really helpful for some of this fine detail stuff. Don't have any straight lines on the back here like we do over here, so that tells me I've got that model cleaned up on the inside as well. Just take one last check. I'll get rid of this face for a second and just make sure everything's good and then undo that. There we go. I'll bring that face back. So now I've got that side done. Just got to take care of this one. Same process. I wonder if I delete these faces in a different order this time, or these lines in a different order, if I'll get to keep that face that got deleted last time. Let's see. Just getting rid of this stray geometry, and nope, that face went away, so it must be some kind of imperfection with the vertices matching up would be my guess. I don't really know. And oh, there I lost one. That's going to be a little bit more annoying to bring back. So I'm going to come at it from a different angle. Sometimes that makes a difference. Yes, I actually wanted to keep that line. Get rid of these stray inside lines. It's looking pretty good inside. Because this is a, yep, that's an important line. And this might be the last one that I don't want. Alright, good and clean. I think I might have gone a little bit too far there. There we go. Okay. So let's group that thing back up. It was a piece of work, and I moved it out 60 inches. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to make one more change here. And select these lines if I can and avoid those faces. These circle lines, they aren't true hard edges, you know, because they're that bevel. So I'm going to hide those so they don't appear in the model. It'll just make it look a little nicer. Just come up to, oh, I think I can just right click. Oh no, I've lost him. Well, that's a shame. I was thinking it was under view, but it's actually just on the right click menu. But that's okay, it's not too bad to get these again. It's a shame it doesn't have some of the selection recall functionality that you've got in like AutoCAD. Maybe it's there and I just don't know about it. So if anybody happens to watch this who knows how to do that, tell me. Okay, so we'll hide those. So that looks a little cleaner. And especially when a texture is applied to it, that will be helpful. Okay, so one more thing I'm going to do with this door, just base geometry. And this geometry is no longer all on details, so I'm going to put it there. And make sure that this group is on details. Layer management's a little tricky to keep on top of, I find, in this thing. Let's bring this up an inch in all directions away. That's not a real dimension that I have figured or anything like that, but I'm just going to bring now outside of my wall group, so back on details. I'm going to create like a 1-inch board to go across here in all the views. Ooh, I got a line here that I don't want. Sometimes that select all is really helpful for catching that stuff. Move that out and actually clean up this stuff like I should. We had that one there too. Yep. Okay, so let's move that thing back. Like I wanted to. And I'll create another one here as well. Something just went wrong there. Redo that. Group that. Come about at 1 inch. And again, this isn't like a real piece of the door assembly. Well, I mean, it kind of is, but it's not based on any dimensions. It's just going to make it graphically look a little bit nicer, so I can texture this as a wood texture as well, like the inside of that door jamb would be. Okay. I'm going to extend my floor out to there now as well. Yeah, okay. So there's another piece to this assembly. That'll be the last thing I do here. And that is a top rail. That is our guide for the door. Okay. So 1.77 inches. I gotta bring that back on my other screen, otherwise I won't be able to see the dimensions. So that thing will look something like this. 1.77. That's very specific, but I guess I was using a dial caliper for it. An inch down. It's 0.4 inches this way. 0.93, and I'm sort of wondering if I have this measured correctly, because it doesn't look like it's going to quite fit to my door the way I want it to. But we'll draw it here based on these dimensions and just see. And yeah, we'll see. I'm suspecting this might be a 0.04 dimension. 0.93, because that looks awfully thick to me for what I guess there is some extra detail to this thing that I did not measure because it's just not necessary for this application. But let's see. So that's our door guide. Gives me about 1 inch that way that it's hanging onto the door. And how does that really come in here? Should get some bookmarks in this video for these locations I'm after. Okay, yeah, so it overhangs the door a little bit, and there's some internal stuff going on that you can't see. If I zoom back, oh, had a frame there that kind of showed what it's looking like. So yeah, the door overhangs that, and it's got it'll bend in a little bit and have some extra detail that's taken up in that 0.4 dimension of width that I've got. You know, the track hangers for the top of the door. Honestly, I don't even know exactly what to call that either. But looking back at this, on the inside lip here, this thing is going to be set 0.4 in, and this is going to have to be another gut check to see if it looks alright once it's actually in there. Come on, let's go. It's telling me that's where it's sitting in there. So the other thing that might change where a whole lot of this is laid out is I've got my doors here, right? But I know that this face of the door is actually this line. So I might have to adjust the location of this room somewhat to get this to work out. So I'm going to take a look at my sheets here. Leave that there for the moment and take a look back at our master sheet. That's to the door. And the door. Yeah, so that door is actually going to be, to the best of my knowledge, centered on this piece of metal here. So if I grab the door and I grab my piece of metal and I drag it out 12 inches, and I'll move, whoops, now I'll move just the door assemblies to line those up with the center of this bar. We'll be all right there. I'm also noticing that the height of this seems not totally correct, and it does appear that the full width of this top piece is not developed. So I'm going to move, oops, get out of here, number pad. I'm going to move this piece up to the top of the door, and then I actually have a note on the one sheet here. Not that sheet, this sheet. It's indicating 1/8 of an inch gap from the top to the metal. So I'll move that up further, 1/8 of an inch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up to be there. I'll move that up to that edge. And I'm going to grab all of these and I'm going to move them up as well. Oh, I missed. Okay, got him. That's about 7/8 of an inch. So I'll move those up, and then this will just kind of be buried in the ceiling probably. I might take some pains to adjust that and trim that off. We'll see. Okay, so coming in here now to the bottom of this. If I had thought about this before, it would have been a little bit easier. Sometimes that's how it goes though. And I'm just going to drag these down to our floor elevation. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. So now I move that 12 inches back to where it should be. And I'm going to evaluate if this seems correct or not. If I move this on red to be closed, and this one on red to be closed, I know my door width is alright because they are not showing a gap there. But does that look like it's set in too far? And I would say no, it doesn't. Take one more review of that there to make sure, because I'm going to have to shift a couple things based on this. But yeah, that doesn't appear to be set way too far in or anything like that. And I'm going to, at the last step, just double check over my drawings here and make sure that that seems correct. I've got out 0.4 in. That's so I've got my bracket where it's supposed to be. I've got my wall thickness correct. Yep. Okay. So my 30.5 feet that I've got on the width of this room will need to get adjusted a little bit. That's it right there, but it should really be to the face of this door. That was in inches, 30.5 feet, like so. If I'm working with that and I move all of this stuff, turn my floor off to make that a little bit easier. Grab the group and move that in to the end point there. So it's a little bit shorter. And I'll adjust these walls. And that's not bad. So after only about an hour's worth of work, I've managed to get kind of the general shape of the room here. I've got some of my trim modeled for what it's going to look like throughout most of it. Everywhere, you know, that'll get used in a couple places. I've got this closet door modeled in. So not sure where we'll go next, but definitely we'll bring this back, and I'll just keep making these little modeling videos until this whole thing's done. Okay, one other thing that I think I'm going to do just before signing off is I'm going to give this a little bit of color. So just taking a look at what things are going to eventually look like. I'm going to give this kind of that wood bamboo look that I actually think looks pretty alright for what we're going for. I'm going to adjust this one. Maybe. Nope, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I'm going to rotate this guy. To make that look correct. I'm going to give this probably not bamboo. We'll give that this wood cherry look. Honestly, that might be the one to use for all of these. I'm thinking. Yeah, that's closer to it. And let's see, let's go in here and grab a metal, and I kind of like this aluminum a lot of times for this sort of a bracket thing. So we'll do that. And then I'm going to take this silver metal and I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to call it brass. And then I'll come over and edit, and I'm going to try to identify something a little closer to that. I'm going to actually pull up the video on the other screen here. This is going to be complicated, but I'm going to drag it back a little bit, and I'm going to try a screen color picker. Oh, does it have to be on this screen? It does. That's a bummer. I'm going to do a print screen, and I'm going to grab paint. I'll drop that in, and I'm going to pick this color. Right in there. And see what that is. That is 218, 209, 106. So 218, 109, 206, 106. 106? That doesn't seem right. 209, 209. I can't remember numbers for the life of me. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna make this like that brass color. And we'll see how well that comes out if I do a paste. Like that. And like that. It's not half bad. So I'm going to go with it, at least for now. And we'll call that a day. So, yeah, successfully modeled the base room and this closet door. All right. Yeah.